You're crouched by a dying fire 15,000 years ago. A wolf is sitting close enough to kill you. Your hand is halfway to its head, and you don't know why you haven't pulled it back. Everything you've ever learned says this animal should have run or gone for your throat. It does neither. It just stays, watching, waiting. And something stops you from reaching for your spear. Nobody tamed this wolf. Nobody raised it. Nobody planned a single part of what happens next. Because the story you were told, brave human adopts wolf pups, trains them into loyal hunters, is wrong. You can raise a wolf from birth, feed it, love it, and it stays a wolf. It stays dangerous. So if humans didn't make dogs, what did? The real answer is one of the strangest things evolution has ever pulled off. It's the reason a predator that should want to eat you will lie down and guard your sleep instead. The reason your dog can hold your gaze until something in your chest goes quiet. That feeling is older than farming, older than writing, older than every empire that's risen and fallen since. And all of it started the night one ancient human made a choice that made no sense at all. They didn't throw the spear. Start with something that sounds impossible. Every dog alive, the German shepherd, the pug, the thing shivering in a sweater in somebody's handbag, is the same animal as the wolf at your fire. Biologists call it Canis lupus familiaris, a subspecies of the grey wolf, not a distant cousin, the same animal rewritten from the inside. Which means somewhere back in the dark, a thing built to hunt you turned into a thing that would die for you. And the timeline of when that happened bends your brain a little. Dogs weren't tamed after we settled down and built farms. They were first. Before wheat, before villages, before we had the faintest idea what we were doing. Picture the world it happened in. No agriculture, no metal. Horses are still wild and won't be ridden for another 10,000 years. You own nothing you can't carry on your back. Your whole life is hunger, weather, and the dark at the edge of the firelight. And in that world, that starving, hand-to-mouth world, humans somehow walked away with a partner, a predator that picked our side. So how? That's the question everyone wants answered, and it's exactly where the story you've always been told quietly falls apart. Because the version from the picture books, brave human, basket of wolf pups, years of patient training, never happened. It couldn't have. And the reason why is the first thing almost nobody tells you about wolves. So let's kill that myth first. Here's the myth spelled out. A Stone Age human finds a den of wolf pups, carries them home, raises them by hand, and turns them into loyal hunters. Warm, simple, wrong. Because you can take a wolf pup at birth, bottle feed it, sleep beside it, give it everything a dog gets, and it grows up a wolf every single time. Calmer, maybe, attached to you even, but still running wolf software with wolf instincts and a wolf's jaw. Zoos have known this for a century. You do not love a wolf into a dog. The people who try get hurt. So if nobody tamed them, what did? In 2001, two biologists, Raymond and Lorna Coppinger, laid out an answer that turns the whole story inside out. We didn't domesticate wolves. The wolves domesticated themselves. And they did it for the least romantic reason imaginable. Our trash. Think about what a human camp smells like from a wolf's nose. We were getting good at hunting, and hunting leaves a mess. Cracked bones, scraps, the organs we threw out, piling up just past the firelight. To a scavenger, that heap is a restaurant that never closes. So a few wolves started creeping in. Not the big, bold, aggressive ones. Those wanted nothing to do with the fire-wielding apes. The ones who edged closer were the slightly calmer ones, the slightly less afraid, the ones who could sit at the tree line and not bolt. And those wolves ate. They had more pups. Their pups were a shade calmer too, so they ate, and on it went, for generations nobody was counting. No one chose this, no one bred anything. Fear just quietly filtered itself out of the bloodline, one scrap at a time. The wolf at your fire wasn't captured. It applied for the job. But here's where it stops being a story about food. Because calm doesn't only change how an animal acts. Calm doesn't only change how an animal behaves. It changes what it becomes. And the proof of that is one of the strangest experiments of the 20th century, one that is still running right now on a fur farm in Siberia. In 1959, a Soviet geneticist named Dmitry Belyaev started breeding foxes. This was a dangerous thing to do. Under Stalin's science, genetics was branded a Western lie. People lost their jobs, their freedom, sometimes their lives, for studying it. Belyaev had already been pushed out of one post, so he hid his real work inside something the state approved of, breeding foxes for fur. The foxes were his cover story, but Belyaev wasn't breeding for fur. At his institute in Novosibirsk, he selected silver foxes for one single trait, and one only: tameness. Every generation, his team tested hundreds of them for how they reacted to a human hand, and bred only the calmest of the calm. No other rule. Not coat, not size, not health. Just which ones were least afraid. And here's what nobody saw coming. The foxes didn't only get friendlier, their bodies began to change. Ears that should have stood up flopped over. Straight tails started to curl. Solid silver coats broke out in patches of white and brown. Faces rounded. Some began to bark, to seek out human eyes, to whine when their keeper walked away. Nobody bred them for any of that. It came along for free, riding on one thing: calm. Scientists call this domestication syndrome. Push hard enough on tameness, and a whole package of changes shows up that you never asked for. And the part that breaks the wolf story open is the speed. This didn't take 10,000 years. It took a handful of generations. Which means the calm wolves drifting around our campfires could have started turning dog-shaped far faster than anyone believed. Ludmila Trut ran that fox farm for 60 years until she died in 2024. Her motto came from The Little Prince: "You become responsible forever for what you have tamed." Hold on to that line, because in a few minutes I'm going to show you a grave 14,000 years old that proves how literally ancient humans meant it. If that's the kind of story you want more of, subscribe so you don't lose the thread. But stare at the wolves too long and you miss half of it. This was a two-way street. For any of it to happen, a human had to do something just as strange: sit by the fire, see the yellow eyes in the dark, and not throw the spear. Over and over, across thousands of years, people had to keep choosing not to kill the thing watching them. We were being selected too. The humans who could tolerate a wolf nearby ate better, hunted better, slept safer. So we kept the calm ones close. And it didn't happen only once. In 2016, a team led by Laurent France and Gregor Larson at Oxford compared ancient dog DNA from across Eurasia and found something startling. The evidence suggests dogs may have been domesticated more than once on opposite ends of the old world, independently. It's still debated. But if they're right, this was never a single magic campfire. It was a pattern. Two species that kept again and again deciding they were better off together. And then the wolves started doing something no wild animal does. They started reading us. Point at something across a room, and a dog looks where you're pointing. A 1-month-old puppy will do it with no training at all. A chimpanzee, our closest relative, can't. A wolf, even one raised by humans from birth, struggles to. The dog reads the human hand like a map. Brian Hare, who runs the Canine Cognition Lab at Duke, spent years chasing why, and the answer circles straight back to Siberia. When his team tested Belyev's tame foxes, the foxes could read a pointing hand too. Nobody taught them. It showed up, again, for free, bundled with calm. Sit with what that means. In a wolf pack, holding another's stare is a threat, a fight about to start. But a dog evolved to hold your gaze and ask it a question, to treat your face not as a danger, but as the place answers come from. The animal didn't just move into our camp. It moved into our attention. It started watching us to understand us. And the deepest proof that it worked isn't in any lab. It's in the ground. 14,000 years ago, in what is now Western Germany, people dug a grave. Not a pit to dump a body. A grave arranged with care. They laid a man in it, somewhere around 40. A woman in her mid-20s. They set objects in beside them, carved antler, a bone pin, and they laid in a dog. For 100 years, that was the whole story. 2 humans and a dog, buried together at the edge of the last ice age. Then a veterinarian named Luke Janssens looked closer at the bones, and the teeth told him something nobody had noticed. This wasn't a healthy animal that died quickly. This was a puppy, barely 7 months old, and it had been desperately sick. Its teeth carried the scars of canine distemper, a savage disease caught at around 4 months. It had fought through 2, maybe 3 bouts of it, each lasting weeks. Sit with what that means. A puppy that sick cannot hunt. It cannot guard. It cannot work or earn its keep or do one useful thing. For weeks it could only lie there, fevered, shaking, soiling itself, worthless by every cold measure of survival. And somebody kept it alive anyway, kept it warm, cleaned it, carried water to its mouth, sat up with a dying animal in a world where they could barely keep themselves alive. And when it died, they didn't toss it. They buried it with their own dead. A man, a woman, and the small, sick dog they had refused to give up on. The oldest grave we have where people and dogs lie together. And in burials like it, archaeologists keep finding the same thing, a human hand left resting on the animal's body. Not a tool set beside a worker, a hand on a friend. Before farming, before writing, 14,000 years before you'd ever catch yourself talking to a dog like it understands every word, someone already loved one enough to bury it like family. So let me ask you something, and I read every answer to this one. What's the oldest thing your dog has ever made you feel? Tell me below. Here's where it turns from a good story into something bigger. Because the dog may have changed where our entire species ended up. One anthropologist, Pat Shipman, has made a provocative and heavily debated argument that when modern humans walked into Europe and met the Neanderthals, what tipped the balance our way wasn't a bigger brain or a sharper spear. It was a partner. Wolves that tracked for us, hunted with us, guarded the kill. She thinks it may have helped us outlast a people who had survived there for 300,000 years. There's no genetic proof, and plenty of scientists push back hard. But the plain fact underneath it isn't in question. Every other animal we ever domesticated, we were the masters. We caught them, penned them, bred them for meat and milk and muscle and hide. They gave us what we wanted because they had no say. Dogs are the only ones who walked toward us on their own, the only ones who were partners in their own taming. We didn't just make dogs. In a real, measurable way, dogs helped make us. But here's the part that stays with me. Look at what we actually built. A bond that runs one way more than the other. Because you can break it. You can leave, rehome, walk out the door, and never come back. The dog can't. We bred the wild out of it. It can't return to being a wolf, can't survive out there, can't choose anyone else. We made a creature that needs us completely, that will wait at a door for a person who is never coming home. And then we did the most human thing of all. We made it die first, every single time. We signed the contract knowing, 15 years, maybe 20, and we will bury it, the way that family in Germany did 14,000 years ago. And we do it again anyway. You didn't choose your dog. 15,000 years ago, something in the dark chose you, and it never once took it back. We built a world where almost everyone can walk away. The dog is the one thing that can't, and never would.